Welcome to the Across the Bar podcast, where we talk about why today's headlines are important for your success at work. I'm Peter Rahbar, and I'm your first call on legal issues.
I'm Laura Brounstein, and I'm your comms expert and other things some days.
Right.
Um, Peter, this has been such an interesting week. There's so much going on. Um,
Is there? Oh my God, I didn't notice.
um, we're not going to get too into it, but I spent most of the weekend watching the news and weeping, as I'm sure many people did.
Right.
And at the same time, there's so much going on in New York right now. And in the employment world, just fall is always busy, lots going on. So we should talk about what's happening with New York City office space because it is not what I thought was happening. Um, the M&A boom, a lot of banks just came out with statements this week that showed higher earnings due to a M&A burst. We can talk about what that's about. We can talk about layoffs and CEOs cutting back or not. And then something fascinating you just shared with me, stay interviews, which I've never heard of. Am I
Yeah,
missing
like
anything?
like to mix it up sometimes. No, I think you got it. Culled it from the 100 topics we thought we talked about discussing today. So
Yes, just so all of our many listeners know, Peter and I start sending articles and thoughts back and forth to each other in the couple days before we record, and then we end up with this lovely mix.
there's a process. There's some madness, some
As
process,
surprising as that is.
and
Yes.
here we are. So
All right.
we're going to talk about New York City first.
So there have been some really interesting things in the news recently. Hold on, I'm making a cup of tea as we talk. There have been some really interesting things in the news recently about converting office space to housing space. That's actually happening in Midtown New York. But that was not the most interesting news this week.
Yeah.
What did you read?
Yeah, so for everyone who always wanted to live in the Pfizer building, now now your opportunity is coming up. But the surprise article that came out yesterday that I've been discussing with some good friends who are real estate executives is it was in the Wall Street Journal, and it said that New York City office rates are at their highest level since the early 2000s, which which would defy common sense, but really supports a lot of what we've been talking about on this podcast. And so the experts tell me, and
Mhm.
I agree because we've already said these things, that these rates are being driven by a couple different trends. First of all, return to office is a real thing, and companies
Yeah,
are pushing it. Now, whether it's successful or not, always different question, but companies are pushing it. That's a real thing. So that is
which I think
driving.
is so much. I think a lot of it is peer pressure. Like they see the other guy doing
Sure.
it, and then they're like,
Yeah, taking part of the wave of
Mhm.
momentum. So that's a real thing, and a lot of companies, like I was reading about a law firm today that just took on extra space because they actually never had enough space to accommodate all the people they were asking to come back. So that's driving space. And part of that is people want good space if they're coming back. So the rates are really skyrocketing on the premium space, and the crappy space is being converted to apartment buildings basically. The other trend that this hits on is the election and the
Yes,
mayoral election in New York. And this is basically corporate leaders who are signing 15-year, 20-year leases are saying, whatever happens in the next 4 years, we think New York's going to survive and thrive
that
beyond
is
that. And
counter to what I'm hearing from so many people, which is interesting. I have so many people in my life saying, if Mamdani wins, I'm out.
right. And a lot of people say that. And then the question is, where do they go? A lot of people who moved to Florida during COVID and
Well, or
after
I'm
have,
taking my business out of the city.
yeah. And where are they going? I mean, people who went
Well,
to
Jersey.
Florida came back.
No, no, I'm not even hearing that I'm moving to Florida thing as much. I'm hearing more if Mamdani takes over, it's not going to be a good place to have a business. I'm going to go to like move my business to Connecticut or something.
Right. And then what are you going to do with your employees on Long Island and, New Jersey and other places? I mean, it's the logistical difficulties are immense to doing something like that. Like moving a whole business doesn't just happen overnight. So what we're saying here is businesses committing to New York in the long term. lastly, the other trend that it supports is the tremendous growth of AI related companies. There are
Well, just
companies
growth.
that are huge names in
Yeah,
AI that don't even have a foothold in New York yet that are
that's a good point.
planning major expansion. So
Good point.
great for New York, great for the
Also,
economy.
I think the job hugging trend, that was like a separate thing you sent me,
Yeah.
that people are scared to death and holding on to their jobs. And that may also be leading to people are saying, okay, I'll come back to the office if I have to.
I don't think they're scared to death. I think they're just, holding on until they don't have to. Whenever the economy opens up, which, if you listen to Scott
See, I
Bessent,
think
which
it's more of an existential fear. I think it's more people being afraid their job is going away, AI, etc.
well, that's the other trend, by the way. I'm glad you said that. AI has not replaced any jobs and won't do that anytime soon. AI
Yes,
will
it
produce
has.
more
What are you talking
jobs.
about? Are you
No,
kidding? All those cuts
not
at
not
Meta, AI
not
has
at a
replaced many jobs already.
not on a mass scale. No way.
Okay, but
No way.
don't say that it's not replacing jobs. All those layoffs, every company is doing layoffs and saying we're able to consolidate forces because of AI.
And as we discussed last week, Laura, that's a lie. The reason why they're cutting jobs has nothing to do with AI. It has to do more with economic uncertainty, and even that's coming to an end. So I would say,
I
you
think
know,
AI is part of it. I think companies like Meta, when they only need 20 coders, not 200 coders, because AI is making it
but they're also spending $1 billion to hire people. I mean,
true.
there's counter narratives that when you put them all together, don't add up to job loss. So
Maybe not total job loss, but
because of
specific
AI,
jobs are being lost.
yeah, I just don't think it's happening on a large scale
Ask
as
ask anybody who used to have a fact checking job in magazines.
that's a totally different animal. The magazine business has its own problems that have nothing to do with AI. AI is going to be another problem they have to deal with.
It's just
And
its latest problem.
yeah, exactly. I mean,
Yeah,
it's a declining industry. As much
okay.
as I love it and you love it,
We love it,
it's a
but
declining
we left it
industry.
for a reason.
Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah. All right. This is very interesting. This New York office space thing and what it says about the mayoral race. What are you hearing from people? Do you think it's
About
like 100% Mamdani, or we've still got a month or so to go? Who knows?
well, we've resisted talking about this for a while,
I know.
intentionally.
I know. We
Um,
gotta get into it.
and this week there's a lot out there. So like three things or two things happened yesterday that I think are of note. One is the New York Times magazine profile on Mamdani dropped that was reported over a period of 5 months. It's pretty
Oh, I haven't read that
extensive,
yet.
and it. I think one of the key takeaways. There's a lot of interesting nuggets in there. One of them is how Mamdani has engaged, at least two people to help him work with New York corporate leaders, and he's
Yeah.
at least so far been pretty successful in his efforts.
Well,
Well, again, we'll
Bloomberg
see. We'll see
Bloomberg
what
is backing
happens.
him now, right?
I don't think he's backing him.
Met with him. Bloomberg met with him
He's met with him and Bloomberg's
after giving so much
deputies.
money to Cuomo in the primary.
Right. So that's one thing. Now the
Almost
second
half.
thing that happened yesterday is John Katsomaitis, who owns Gristedes and is a big
Big New
Republican
York.
donor, and is the biggest donor to Curtis Sliwa, who has 15% of the vote in every poll that comes out pretty consistently. He went on talk radio in New York yesterday and said, "Mark my words, Mamdani will not serve a day as mayor of New York." I don't know what that means,
What does that mean?
frankly. Some people think it means that Slee was going to drop out. Um, but notice he didn't say Mamdani's not going to win. He said he won't serve. So
Yeah, so what does that mean?
I don't know. Could be something more sinister. I don't know. But it certainly seems that unless Sliwa drops out, it seems like Mamdani's going to win. Um, but let's see. There's still a few weeks left. I mean, anything could happen.
Fascinating. Yes. It's a very interesting moment in New York. Okay. So the M&A boom is fascinating to me also. things had been really quiet in terms of IPOs and M&As for the last few years. And now with the seemingly laxer oversight that the Trump administration is doing.
Seemingly laxer. I like that. As opposed to non-existent
Yeah,
regulatory enforcement. Okay,
yeah, exactly.
sure,
Uh,
sure.
Everybody's
You say
merging and
potato, I
acquiring.
say potato. Okay.
I thought that was a responsible way to put it.
Sure, sure. Very nice. Very kind.
Um, it's like the 80s. Like everyone's buying and selling. And I would love to hear your take on the boom, if we are at the beginning of it, just the beginning, or if it's already run its course. I don't think so. I think it's just beginning. But I think people should, as they're signing contracts right now for new jobs, or, you know, they should think about how to protect themselves in case their company is acquired or they acquire another company, how to protect clauses to put in their contract that I'd love to hear you give some takes on. Okay. So what do you think? Is it the 80s all over again?
Well, I mean, a very famous investor said the other day that it's like 1999 right now with the stock market and the general economic environment, which resonated with a lot of people. I mean, there's definitely
1999 preceded a big bubble burst, if I remember correctly.
yes, exactly, exactly. It was about a
Like the
year
internet
a year or
1.0.
two before. Yeah, exactly. There's some froth going on. There's data center froth. There's M&A froth. There's AI froth. But there's no doubt. I mean, the banks, the major banks, Morgan Stanley, Goldman Sachs, have Bank of America today also published earnings, and their M&A businesses are up 40, 50, in some cases 60%. So things are happening. And as you noted, there's very little regulatory oversight. I mean, the type that's happening is the type we don't really like what we saw in the Paramount Skydance deal, what we saw with
That's not, well, I guess that's
Nexstar.
not regulation. That's more
No, yeah, that's muscle.
cronyism and extortion.
Yeah, exactly. But beyond that, we're seeing, you know, the major tech companies on major acquisition sprees, which, you could debate the health and merit of that. There are still companies that are emerging. Obviously, OpenAI has emerged as a new major tech company, but is swallowing up little companies along the way. And so, if you're going to work at one of these smaller companies, or you're going to a big company that's
Just
talking about
you
spinoffs,
get a job tomorrow
yeah,
at Market AI, the hottest new AI marketing firm.
right.
What are you putting in your contract to protect yourself,
Well,
if you
certainly,
can?
if you're going to a startup, you're part of a big part of your reason for going there, and a big part of your overall compensation is equity, and you'd want to make sure that that equity vests upon an acquisition, especially in circumstances where you're terminated after the acquisition for
Yeah.
reasons that are not cause. So these are called change in control provisions, and basically they protect your equity in the event of a change in control, which a sale or acquisition would be. And in some cases, it vests immediately. In some cases, it gets flipped into whatever the new form of stock is. And certainly, if you're terminated, it should be paid out so that all your hard work and effort at this startup isn't just turned to dust. So that's one thing you'd want to look for. You'd also want to make sure your contract applies to any company that
Okay.
purchases your company. So that's called a successors and assigns clause, and that's
And you
that's
want to
very
protect
technical.
yourself against layering, right? To some extent.
Right. And if you're a senior executive, that's certainly something that you would ask for too. And so we've talked before about a
Yeah. What's that called again?
good reason protection. And so if you're someone reporting to the CEO, you'd want a change in that structure to trigger a right for you to resign and get your equity and get severance, et cetera. So those provisions are what you would look for. There are ways to protect yourself if you're more senior. If you're junior, I would say you'd want to just make sure your equity is protected. And if you don't understand what's going on, you should ask, well, what happens if this company gets acquired? What happens to my equity?
Yeah. Or if we acquire another company.
That's right. That's right.
Um, IPOs are also going up. Do you think is that just a natural part of when there's more mergers and acquisitions and there's less oversight, there's going to be more IPOs?
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely IPOs happening, and there's been some really successful ones and some non-successful ones. There's also, I mean, you notice some of the most successful, biggest names that we talk about a lot are not public companies at all. They're just private. And so OpenAI, the most notable one is just raising money. And
Yeah.
and there's one I was just reading about in New York. The founder owns 75% of it. He's just raising money. And so on the one hand, that's good for the founders and
Mhm.
the people who have stakes in those companies, which tend to be not just the people who work there, but venture capital firms, private equity firms, the private markets. But on the other side, it leaves out, the public
Yeah.
and opportunities for them to have earnings or income growth through investments other than through secondary markets or
How
advisors.
much how much is just there's the private market got bigger and so there's more choices for funds, and so why wouldn't they choose something with less oversight? Like they can get money easier than going public. So why would they? Is that the sentiment?
Yeah, I mean that's part of it. I mean it used to
Having
be
run, 1.5 successful IPOs, as I like to say,
right.
it's a lot of work.
It's a lot of work. It's a lot of reporting. It's a lot of issues with shareholders. But as
A
the
lot of
regulatory,
inviting people under the tent,
exactly,
which they
and
might not be ready to do.
right. And so if the cash is there in the private markets, then why would you do it? And there are different reasons for that, and a lot of internal discussions about it.
Yeah, interesting. It'll be interesting to see. It is trending up this year. Nothing like it was maybe 8 years ago, but it's will be interesting to see if that continues. Okay. So to make all these deals, usually the key people fly around the country for meetings. How do they fly around the country, Peter?
Definitely not in waiting in line on Southwest. I
Right.
don't think that's what's what's
Right.
happening. There was a great article this week, and also some reporting today in connection with the earnings reports that have been coming out that companies, despite this robust environment of deal making and the robust stock market and the appreciation of their stock, they're still cutting costs. And even though they're cutting costs and
Their earnings are going up and
earnings are
they're cutting.
going up, layoffs are still going to happen, but but CEOs are traveling by private jet more than ever. That's one cost that's not being cut
What's
now.
up with that?
Well, the private jet trend for CEOs first started as convenience. A CEO could go to 4 or 5 different cities in one day and be efficient about it and not have to wait in a bunch of security lines and
Yeah,
be
that's
subject
why
to
my
delays.
former CEO, Adam Newman, had one, just to have more meetings.
Right. And then there was a security element to it. Now I would say those things certainly exist for some people. But some of the studies, or some of the case studies cited in this example, in this article, didn't really support either of those things. And I think as a CEO, you just always have to
It's
be
a
concerned.
flex.
Yeah, you always have to be concerned about optics. Even in this type of job market, it's not going to last forever. And also, you never know when you're going to get caught up in something, as we've seen and discussed many, many times. So, if, for
So what are you saying? Are you
CEOs,
saying think about it if you're a CEO? Maybe you don't need a private jet.
I would just be prepared to defend it, maybe in a way that, you wouldn't have been in the past. Because when people lose their jobs or, their pay gets cut or, told to come back to
Okay,
office
I
and
think
they're
you're mincing or being euphemistic here. I think it's not. Think about how you might need to defend it. It's you are fucking eating cake in front of people getting their head cut off. Not cool. You and
yes.
I have an old leader at our old company who loves to post his first class plane seats.
I can't believe you brought this up.
I love this man. This man has been a mentor to me. I think
Oh
he
my
is one of the
God.
most brilliant people. But I'm always like, we just laid people off. Do you need to post this picture?
Right. I mean, we talked about this before the summer. No one wants to see your, if you're an executive, no one wants to see your, gorgeous
PJ. No.
summer private jet vacation pictures. You need to be more conscious of it in this environment. I still think that's true. Same thing goes for private jets, first class seats. I mean, I'm just really cracking up that you brought this guy up.
Weren't you thinking
And
about it?
I did notice the latest one a few days ago, and
Again,
absolutely, I was thinking about
I
it.
have the
Yeah,
deepest respect and
yeah,
admiration,
yeah.
and Peter does too. Affection, admiration, and
Right,
respect.
right.
Time
But
done.
this goes for a lot of things. I mean, in this environment, so if your company is making more money than ever, and you're still, I think I saw something today, like Goldman Sachs is targeting at least 1,000 layoffs. I mean, I think you just have to be as corporate executives, and you would advise them probably before I would on these type of issues, like let's just be mindful of optics,
Optics, yes.
you know like you have to be, of course, where you
Where are these
appear, who you
layoffs
appear with.
coming from? Is it like cutting a department that is no longer needed, or is it just skimming the fat across the board?
Well, this is where you get to like one of my core issues here, that some companies just do it out of routine. They feel because Jack Welch told them 30 years ago that you should do this, that they just engage in this exercise
Six
every
Sigma
year.
is bad. So
Yeah. So you just need to cut people every year, low performers, etc. Even your high performers, you need to penalize and keep them in check. I if your name's not on the door, you have to be ready to deal with these things happening potentially, no matter
even
how
if your
good your
name is on the
company's doing.
door.
Well, if your name's on the door, you're making the decisions. And hopefully when you're making these decisions, you're thinking
Yes, but
about
we've
it.
also seen situations where a CEO doing a bad job is told by the board he should maybe be an emeritus and hire someone to actually run the company who is capable.
Yeah, yeah,
So it does
but
happen, even if your name is on the door.
yeah, I would hope, my hope is always that CEOs and C-suite members would think of a broader responsibility than just profit and loss. Now,
Have you seen
that's
any indication that that is a reality?
there are companies that do that 100%. And I have a lot of clients who think that way, and there are
I think.
C-suite people, and so those people do exist. I'm not, although I was accused by a former colleague of being a crazy anti-corporate lefty the other day, which I don't think I
You
am,
are not at all.
but okay. Um, I just believe in responsible leadership, and I feel like at a time where the government, and I've said this, the government is like not focused on some other things beyond the well-being of American society and American people. Like I think corporate leaders need to fill that gap.
Yeah. I think it's expecting a lot from corporate leaders. I think corporate
It
leaders,
is. I admit it. It
you
is.
know, what stakeholder capitalism, you think you do think more about your various stakeholders, and that, is good. But I think there are a lot of, the fact that people don't have religious leaders anymore. There's a lot of holes that need filling, and I don't think corporate leaders can be expected to.
Well, we have
We
Pope
both have
Leo.
talked
We have
about we
Pope
don't love
Leo.
the model of we're all a family because that's gross
Yeah.
and not real.
That's, you don't have to do that. I mean, there was a time where companies had pensions and had training programs and really invested in the long-term, careers of their employees. And that's just mostly wiped out.
You know who's good with that? Walmart. They are like companies like that are dedicated to training and promoting from within.
Yeah.
Um,
Well, Walmart's a
are
great company.
always impressed me.
Yeah, for sure.
Have you been to Bentonville? Did we ever talk about that?
I haven't. It's on my list, and I want to go to the museum down there.
Fascinating, amazing museum, but it's so fascinating that
Yeah,
Bentonville, Arkansas is where Walmart is based, and it owns the whole town basically. And it's
yeah.
fascinating. It's
And they
really
just did
pretty.
They just did a deal with OpenAI yesterday, so now you
I
could
saw that.
shop at Walmart through OpenAI. Great.
Wicked smart.
Yeah, very
Yeah.
smart.
Okay, you introduced a new idea to me today. What is a stay interview?
Yeah, see, this is I want to acknowledge good things that companies, are doing because they're not always doing bad things. And a client told me about this, and I actually think it's a great idea. And so the concept of a stay interview is, um, if a company identifies an employee or group of employees who may be unhappy or threatening to leave or could possibly be exiting, they meet with them and say, "What could we do to help you stay? What are the things that would help you stay?" And they have a dialogue with them about it rather than threatening them or shutting them out or kicking them out or branding them as malcontents
Is
or
that
what.
only if they are a certain level of successful at the company? Like, is this a
Well,
program for like high performers who try to leave? Okay.
no, I mean, at least at this company where I heard about it, it is something that's done pretty broadly. Now, the thing is, a lot of companies don't know that people are leaving until they leave and say they're going to leave.
But as we've
So
also talked about before, millennials and especially Gen Z need more regular check ins than older millennials and Gen X, which we were fine with twice a year, quarterly check ins. With,
were you fine with that?
I mean, I wanted less if possible. But like, last thing I needed was my
You just
editor.
wanted to be left alone and told that you were doing a great job, and that's
Yeah,
that.
yeah, totally. But the kids, millennials and Gen Z, which we need to learn because it's what they need to thrive, need regular check ins, as we have learned and we've talked about. And so if you're
Well,
doing those, you should have an idea of people who are pulling back.
Well, I think it's really important, and I've said it in a number of different contexts, to have constant communication with your team. If you're a manager, you should
Constant
always.
communication is different than like constant, like weekly reviews. Oh,
Right. It shouldn't just be reviews and formal. It could be
yeah.
informal, but like taking the temperature really,
Yes,
and
is
and not being
important.
threatening about it. Like opening a trusted line of communication is important because it helps you identify problems before they happen. Like a few months ago, we would talk about how could someone have four different jobs simultaneously if a manager's talking to them every day. And
Right.
it was also part of the reason to have people back in the office and whatever. But I think, you know now that people are back in the office, or to the extent that they are you talking to them? Are you engaging with them? Do you know how they feel? Do you know what issues are? Are you making it comfortable enough and safe enough for them to come to you and say, "Hey, these are some things I've been thinking about that
Should you create
I don't feel great
anonymous
about."
ways for people to give feedback, do you think?
So this is a very controversial topic amongst
Yeah.
management generally, because management generally hates anything anonymous. They don't like the ability for someone to just take shots without putting their name behind it, legitimate or not. And I think, in my experience, a lot of reports that have come through anonymous hotline type things are given less credibility than ones that have names attached to it. Now, I
Interesting.
don't personally believe that, but I know a lot of executives are trained to think about anonymous reports that way. My
Mhm.
view is you should have as many avenues as possible for employees to come forward with complaints or concerns beyond just talk to your manager, because they don't always feel comfortable talking to their manager. And sometimes they feel that their managers are, going to form a judgment against them if they come forward and
Yeah.
speak honestly. And they don't feel that HR is an ally, so they don't want
Well,
to
they
go
don't
there.
want HR is not usually an ally. Anything you say can and will be used against you with HR. Always remember that.
Yeah. Sorry to our friends in HR, but
Sorry.
that is
Yeah.
a
Sorry to the.
perception that is real.
Yes.
So I think these stay interviews are very open minded. I hope they catch on at other places. I hope people could be open minded about it. It is a tight labor market, so I
Yep.
think they should be. It is a good tool to have in your toolkit.
Yes. All right. I think that is really interesting, that whole concept, stay interviews. Okay, heroes and zeros. Who's your zero? Or
So,
what's your zero?
um, so my zero is sports related. I'm sorry, but there was a firing of the Penn State football coach this weekend that made a lot of headlines. And at first, because they fired this football coach in the middle of the year at a very big program, but also second, it triggered a $49 million buyout of his contract.
Why did they
Um,
fire him?
and this is a public university, and
What the
as
hell?
we as well, the team sucks, so that's why they fired him. And I just think,
Has Shapiro said anything about it?
who? Oh,
Shapiro.
Josh Shapiro. Oh, I don't know. I would just say, these provisions exist in college sports contracts, but they are pretty irresponsible. There's a lot of scrutiny of college practices now, obviously, with the government's focus and also to increase donor focus. But, this type of buyout in a college contract is just absolutely, I think, irresponsible by the trustees or whoever entered into the contract. Now there is mitigation and other features, so it may be lower than 49 million. But in an environment where you're a public university, and b, the tuition increases and other cuts going on, it's just irresponsible governance. So
Sounds like it to me.
that, that's
I'm going to
that's
agree with
my
you, Peter.
yeah.
So, my zero, and I was afraid you were going to make yourself one of my zero people when you started talking.
Oh boy.
Anyone hating on Taylor Swift's new album is a zero because it is wonderful. I cannot stop listening to it. Opalite, Fate of Ophelia. It is just, people are like giving her a hard time because it's joyful and fun and frolicking. And last year they were giving her a hard time because everything she wrote was sad. How wonderful to like have this album of happy, thoughtful music from someone in love. I think it's wonderful. Has it been played a lot in your house? What do you think?
I mean, I've listened to it. My kids were home this weekend, and they told me they're basically not interested. But I have a lot of friends who are huge Taylor Swift fans. I guess there's also like a more
Wait, your
risque song
daughter's
in it.
not, Sadie's not into it?
No, no.
Huh.
So
What were you going to say? There's a controversy?
isn't there like some more risque songs on this album too? It's not
Yes.
all just like,
Would.
wood.
Would.
Yeah, yeah. I thought that's
Yeah.
where I thought
But
you
the
were going
words
with
to
this.
that song are very Cosmo friendly.
Yeah, yeah. Your
Life of a showgirl.
Cosmo side is,
Yes.
disappointed that you didn't bring that up.
Yeah. Well, but it
Um,
just goes without saying that that is a solid song. It really
I
rises to the occasion. I can keep going.
really breaks through. Um, in conjunction with that, I read that Travis Kelsey opened a restaurant in Kansas City. So
Let's go.
maybe you should stop by. It's supposedly the hardest restaurant to get into there.
Really? Let's go, Peter. All right.
All right.
Um, and then
I
for my
love Kansas City.
hero,
Fun city.
I've never been.
Oh,
My hero, I have to say, every single person who worked and prayed to have there be peace right now in the Middle East, in Israel and Gaza, the hostages to be home, the fighting to have stopped, God willing, the rebuilding to start. I have to give some credit to Donald Trump, even though I obviously kind of gave my life last year to beat him. He got this done. But every single person from the Biden and Trump administration who this was the work of, you and I were talking earlier, a lot of people. And it's just, I hope it lasts. It's really nice to see things go in the right direction for a minute.
yeah. Incredible. I mean, incredible moments of joy with the return of the hostages, which
And the prisoners.
should have happened so long ago. And it was amazing to see them reunited with their families. And hopefully the remains of the other hostages who are no longer alive,
Hopefully that doesn't fuck things up.
who were murdered, will be
Mm-hmm.
returned as promised. But yes, credit to everyone who made this happen. It's a monumental moment. We'll see what the next steps are, but for now, I think we can all enjoy and be thankful for the return of the hostages.
Yeah, and keep
And the ending
everyone
of
who lost during this, which are so many, in our hearts on both sides.
Right.
Okay, what's your hero?
My hero, his new book out called 1929. Andrew Ross Sorkin wrote it. It's
Love him.
It's a great book on
Good head of hair on that
good
guy.
historical New York book. Big sneaker fan.
Yeah.
But I was at the party for the book the other night. It was quite a little affair.
Oh.
And that was fun. So I got to give his
Why
book
didn't
a
I get
plug.
invited to that?
I know. Well, when our book comes out, we'll invite him, and
Okay.
you could ask him.
That sounds good.
But it was a
he's
very
great,
very New
and
York.
that obviously has a lot of implications for this moment in time.
Yeah, and there was a profile on 60 Minutes, and they talked about parallels to what's happening today with a lot of the crypto schemes, and so reading is important, everybody. So you should be
Books are
doing it.
important.
Books are important. History is important. Tends to repeat itself, and it's
Yes.
important to learn lessons from it. So maybe
And novels are also important, which I know a lot of boys
yes,
don't read novels, but studies show that our ability to have empathy for others rises with reading novels. So
there you go. Great.
Okay. I feel like this was a great conversation. New
As
York is
usual.
back. I'm fascinated by this. I'm fascinated to see what ongoingly happens with the corporate space conversation in New York.
Let's say.
Yeah.
But for now, thank you to everyone who's watching and listening. The Across the Bar podcast.
Send us questions.
Send us questions. Subscribe.
Thank you, Sadie,
share.
for producing.
Yes.
And
we'll see you next week.
See you next week.